Park Hana's fingers trembled slightly as she counted the coins for the third time, arranging them in neat piles on the small cafe table outside Sweetest Dreams Bakery. 51, 101, 501 pieces, each coin representing hours of meticulous work on graphic design projects that barely paid enough to survive. 3,801, still 200 short of the small strawberry cake that cost exactly 4,001. She closed her eyes, fighting back the familiar sting of tears. Today marked 3 years since the accident that had taken her parents and left her paralyzed from the waist down. But more importantly, today would have been her mother's 52nd. Every year before the accident, her mother had brought her to this exact bakery to share a slice of strawberry cake, their special tradition. The bakery had been renovated since then, transformed from a modest neighborhood shop into an upscale establishment that catered to Seoul's wealthy elite. But they still made the same strawberry cake, and Hana had been determined to honor her mother's memory, despite her changed circumstances. The wheelchair beneath her was second-hand, purchased with the last of her insurance settlement after medical bills had consumed everything else. Her small studio apartment was barely large enough for the chair to maneuver, but it was what she could afford on her freelance income. Hana opened her eyes and stared at the coins again, willing them to multiply. She'd been saving for 3 months, setting aside every spare one, skipping meals when necessary. The irony wasn't lost on her that she was now the kind of person who counted pennies outside the very bakery where she'd once been a carefree child. Through the large glass windows, she could see families enjoying elaborate desserts, business people conducting meetings over coffee, couples sharing intimate moments over pastries that cost more than her weekly grocery budget. She began counting the coins one more time, hoping somehow she'd miscalculated. Chapter 2. The Observer. Kang Min-ho had been standing near his black sedan for 10 minutes, ostensibly checking his phone while his driver waited patiently. In reality, he'd been watching the young woman in the wheelchair count and recount her coins with a mixture of fascination and growing concern. As the CEO of Nexus Technologies, Min-ho was accustomed to observing people, reading their motivations, understanding their needs, predicting their behaviors. It was a skill that had made him successful in business and wealthy beyond most people's dreams. But something about this woman's quiet dignity in the face of obvious struggle struck him in a way he hadn't experienced before. She was beautiful, but not in the polished way of the women who typically moved in his social circle. Her beauty was natural, unadorned. Long black hair pulled back in a simple ponytail, minimal makeup, clothes that were clean and neat, but clearly inexpensive. What captivated him most was her posture, straight-backed and proud despite her circumstances, refusing to let her situation diminish her inherent grace. Min-ho had grown up with privilege, the only son of a family that owned one of South Korea's largest conglomerates. He'd never wanted for anything material, had never counted coins, or worried about affording basic pleasures. Watching this woman's careful calculation of her meager resources was like glimpsing a world he'd never truly understood. His original purpose for visiting the bakery, picking up an elaborate dessert spread for a business dinner, suddenly seemed frivolous. The amount he was about to spend on unnecessary luxury could probably feed this woman for a month. She was counting her coins for the 4th time now, and Min-ho could see the disappointment in her shoulders as she reached the same insufficient total. Something in her expression, a mixture of determination and heartbreak, made a decision for her. He approached slowly, not wanting to startle her, his expensive Italian leather shoes silent on the sidewalk. When he was close enough to speak without raising his voice, he stopped. "Excuse me," he said gently. "I couldn't help but notice. Are you trying to buy something from the bakery?" Chapter 3. Unexpected Kindness. Hana looked up sharply, her hands instinctively moving to cover the scattered coins. She'd been so focused on her counting that she hadn't noticed the man approaching. Her first impression was of expensive elegance, perfectly tailored suit, immaculate grooming, the kind of confident bearing that came with wealth and power. "I'm sorry," she said quickly, beginning to gather her coins. "I know I'm taking up space at the table. I was just..." "Please don't apologize." Min-ho's voice was gentler than she'd expected from someone who looked like he belonged in boardrooms and exclusive clubs. "I wasn't suggesting you leave. I was wondering if you needed assistance." Hana's cheeks flushed with embarrassment. The last thing she wanted was pity from a stranger, especially one who clearly had more money than he knew what to do with. "I'm fine, thank you. Just calculating." Min-ho noticed how she positioned her wheelchair slightly away from him, creating distance. He recognized the defensive posture of someone who'd learned to be wary of others' motivations. "What are you hoping to buy?" "It's not important." Hana finished collecting her coins, the metal pieces clinking softly as she dropped them to her small purse. "It seemed important to you." Something in his tone made her look up again. His eyes were kind, genuinely concerned rather than condescending. She found herself answering despite her better judgment. "A strawberry cake, the small one in the window. Today is my mother's birthday. Was my mother's birthday." The correction came automatically, a reminder of loss that still felt fresh after 3 years. Min-ho glanced toward the bakery window, easily spotting the cake she meant. It was modest compared to the elaborate confections surrounding it, but he could see why it might hold special meaning. A beautiful choice. "I'm a little short," Hana admitted, hating how the words tasted like failure. "But I'll save up and come back next week." Next week? Her birthday will have passed, but the cake will still be the same. Min-ho felt something twist in his chest at the quiet resignation in her voice. What if it didn't have to wait until next week? Chapter 4. Dignity and Pride. Hana's eyes narrowed slightly, recognizing the direction of the conversation. "I appreciate your concern, but I don't accept charity." "What if it wasn't charity?" Min-ho asked, his mind working quickly. "What if it was business?" "Business? I'm Kang Min-ho, CEO of Nexus Technologies. We're always looking for talented freelancers." He reached into his jacket and produced a business card, offering it to her. "What kind of work do you do?" Hana hesitated before accepting the card, studying it with surprise. She recognized the company name. Nexus was one of South Korea's most successful tech startups, known for innovative software solutions and progressive workplace policies. "Graphic design," she said cautiously. "Mostly small projects, logos, website graphics, marketing materials." "Perfect. I have a project that needs immediate attention. A logo redesign for one of our subsidiary company. The budget is 50,000 won. And I need it completed by next week." Hana stared at him, recognizing the offer for what it was, a graceful way to give her money without making it feel like charity. The amount was far more than a simple logo would typically cost, especially for a company of Nexus's caliber. "Mr. Kang, you don't even know if I'm any good at what I do. Do you have a portfolio?" Hana pulled out her tablet, swiping through her digital portfolio with practiced efficiency. Min-ho studied the screen, genuinely impressed by what he saw. Her work was clean, creative, and professional, easily worth the fee he'd quoted, possibly more. "This is excellent work," he said, and meant it. "The offer stands." "Why are you doing this?" Min-ho met her eyes directly. "Because talent deserves opportunity, regardless of circumstances, and because everyone should be able to honor their mother's memory properly." The sincerity in his voice made Hana's throat tighten with unexpected emotion. I would need a contract. Terms in writing, of course. Professional standard." Min-ho smiled, and Hana noticed how it transformed his entire face, making him seem younger and more approachable. "But first, shouldn't we get that cake?" Hana looked down at her coins, then back at him. "I still don't have enough. Consider it an advance on your fee." Chapter 5. The Cake and Conversation. 20 minutes later, Hana found herself sitting across from Kang Min-ho at a corner table inside Sweetest Dreams Bakery, a perfect strawberry cake between them and 2 cups of coffee she hadn't ordered but was grateful for. The surreal nature of the situation wasn't lost on her. This morning she'd been a struggling freelancer counting pennies, and now she was having coffee with one of Seoul's most successful young CEOs. "Tell me about your mother," Min-ho said, cutting a small piece of cake with the silver fork the server had provided. Hana hesitated. She wasn't accustomed to sharing personal details with strangers, especially clients. But something about Min-ho's genuine interest made her want to answer. She was a teacher. Elementary school. She believed that every child deserved to feel special, so she would bring me here on her birthday instead of expecting me to celebrate hers. Hana took a small bite of cake, and the familiar taste brought back a flood of memory. She said birthdays were for making the people you love happy. "She sounds like a remarkable woman." She was. "She and my father both died in the accident." Hana gestured vaguely toward her wheelchair. 3 years ago. Min-ho set down his fork, his expression growing serious. "I'm sorry for your loss." "Thank you." Hana appreciated that he didn't offer empty platitudes about everything happening for a reason, or her parents being in a better place. "What about you? Do you have family traditions?" "Not really. My family's idea of tradition is annual board meetings and charity galas." Min-ho's smile was wry. "We're not very good at the personal touch." "That sounds lonely." "It is." The admission surprised him. He rarely acknowledged the emotional emptiness of his privileged life, let alone to someone he'd just met. "I think that's why I was drawn to your situation. There was something so genuine about what you were trying to do." Hana studied his face, seeing past the expensive suit and polished exterior to something more vulnerable underneath. Being wealthy doesn't make you happy. Being wealthy makes everything easier except the things that actually matter. Like what? Like finding people who see you as more than your bank account. Like having relationships that aren't based on what you can provide. Like feeling like you're making a difference in the world beyond profit. The honesty in his voice surprised. She'd expected someone in his position to be more guarded, more concerned with maintaining his image. "Is that why you helped me? To feel like you're making a difference?" Min-ho considered the question carefully. "I helped you because watching you count those coins with such determination reminded me that dignity isn't about how much money you have. It's about how you carry yourself when you don't have enough. Chapter 6. Professional Boundaries. Over the following week, Hana threw herself into the logo project with an intensity that surprised even her. She'd worked with corporate clients before, but never for a company of Nexus's caliber, and she was determined to prove that Min-ho's faith in her abilities wasn't misplaced. The project brief he'd sent was for a subsidiary company called Accessible Solutions, a division focused on developing technology for people with disability. The irony wasn't lost on Hana that her first major corporate project would be for a company whose mission aligned so closely with her own experiences. She created dozens of concepts, refining and perfecting each design until she had a portfolio of options that represented her best work. The logo needed to convey innovation, accessibility, and hope, themes that resonated deeply with her personal journey. Min-ho had been professional in their email exchanges, providing feedback that was specific and constructive without being overly but Hana found herself looking forward to his messages more than she cared to. His insights showed a level of understanding about accessibility issues that went beyond typical corporate awareness. The design needs to feel empowering rather than sympathetic, he'd written in one email. Our target audience doesn't want to be seen as objects of pity. They want to be recognized as capable individuals who deserve the same opportunities as everyone else. The comment had struck Hana as particularly perceptive. Too many people in her life since the accident had treated her with a kind of careful sympathy that felt more diminishing than supportive. When she finally submitted her final designs, Hana felt a mixture of pride and nervousness. The work was good, possibly the best she'd ever done, but she couldn't shake the feeling that this project meant more than just professional advancement. Min-ho's response came within hours. Exceptional work. The board was unanimous in their approval. I'd like to discuss additional projects if you're interested. Are you available for a meeting tomorrow? Hana stared at the message, her heart racing. A follow-up meeting could mean more work, financial stability, the kind of professional opportunity she'd been dreaming of, but it could also mean something more complicated. Continued interaction with a man who'd already shown her more kindness than she'd experienced in years. She typed and deleted several responses before settling on, "Yes, I'm available. What time works for you?" His reply was immediate. 2 p.m. at my office. I'll send a car. That's not necessary. I can take public transportation. Hana, please let me send a car. It's easier for everyone. The use of her first name sent an unexpected flutter through her chest. She realized that despite her best efforts to maintain professional distance, the boundaries between business and personal were already beginning to blur. Chapter 7. The Office Visit. Nexus Technologies occupied 3 floors of a gleaming glass tower in Gangnam, its modern design reflecting the innovative spirit of the company. Hana had researched the building before her visit, noting with relief that it was fully accessible, a detail that spoke well of Min-ho's commitment to inclusive practices. The car he'd sent was a luxury sedan with a driver who treated her wheelchair with respectful efficiency, neither making a show of helping nor ignoring her needs. It was exactly the kind of balanced approach that Hana appreciated but rarely experienced. Min-ho's office was on the top floor, with floor-to-ceiling windows offering a panoramic view of Seoul's skyline. Hana was struck by the space's minimalist elegance. Clean lines, expensive but understated furniture, and several pieces of modern art that suggested genuine appreciation rather than corporate decoration. Hana, thank you for coming. Min-ho rose from behind his desk as she entered, moving around to greet her properly. He was dressed more casually than during their first meeting, dark jeans and a crisp white shirt that somehow made him seem more approachable. Thank you for the opportunity. Hana maneuvered her wheelchair to face him, maintaining the professional demeanor she'd practiced during the drive over. Please, sit wherever you're comfortable. He gestured toward a seating area near the windows. Can I get you anything? Coffee, tea, water? Coffee would be nice. As Min-ho prepared coffee from an expensive-looking machine in the corner of his office, Hana studied the space more carefully. The art on the walls was eclectic but cohesive, suggesting personal taste rather than professional decoration. A bookshelf held an interesting mix of business texts and literary fiction. On his desk, she noticed a small framed photo of an elderly woman with kind eyes. Your grandmother? She asked when he returned with 2 cups of coffee. Min-ho followed her gaze and smiled. Yes. She raised me after my parents got too busy building the family empire. She's the only person who ever made me feel like I mattered for who I was, rather than what I could accomplish. She looks kind. She was. She passed away 2 years ago. Min-ho settled into the chair across from her. She would have liked you. You don't know me well enough to make that assessment. I know enough. I know you honor your commitments. You take pride in your work, and you don't let circumstances define your worth. Those were the qualities she valued most. Hana felt heat rise in her cheeks at the unexpected compliment. You said you had additional projects to discuss. I do. But first, I want to be completely honest with you about something. Chapter 8. Honest Confessions. Min-ho set down his coffee cup and leaned forward slightly, his expression growing serious. The Accessible Solutions project was real, and your work was genuinely exceptional, but I need to tell you that the subsidiary was created specifically to give you this opportunity. Hana felt her stomach drop. What do you mean? I mean that after our meeting at the bakery, I couldn't stop thinking about what you'd said, about talent being overlooked because of circumstances. So I created a division that would allow me to hire freelancers like you without it seeming like charity. Like me? Hana's voice was carefully controlled, but Min-ho could hear the hurt on people with disabilities who are underemployed despite their ability. The division is real now. We've already identified several other freelancers to work with, but it started because I wanted to help you specifically. Hana was quiet for a long moment, processing this information. Part of her was angry at the deception, but another part was impressed by the thoughtfulness of his approach. So this is charity after— No. Min-ho's voice was firm. Charity would have been me buying you the cake and walking away feeling good about myself. This is business. You earned every one of that fee with the quality of your work. But you created the opportunity specifically. Yes, and I'd do it again. Min-ho met her eyes directly. Hana, I've been in business long enough to recognize exceptional talent when I see it. Your disability doesn't diminish your ability. If anything, it seems to have given you a perspective that makes your work more insightful. You don't know anything about my perspective. Then tell me. Min-ho leaned back in his chair. Help me understand what it's like to navigate a world that wasn't designed for you. Hana studied his face, looking for signs of condescension or false sympathy. Instead, she saw genuine curiosity and respect. It's exhausting, she said finally. Not the physical limitations, those you adapt to. It's the constant need to prove that you're capable, that you're worth the extra effort it might take to include you. It's people either treating you like you're made of glass or like you're invisible. And which category do I fall into? Neither, actually. That's what's confusing about you. Min-ho smiled. Good. I was hoping to be confusing. Despite herself, Hana felt her lips curve upward. Why? Because predictable people are boring, and I have a feeling you're anything but boring. Chapter 9. Growing closer over the next month, Hana found herself working on multiple projects for Nexus Technologies and its growing Accessible Solutions division. What had started as a single logo design had evolved into a comprehensive branding package, website graphics, and marketing materials for what was becoming a legitimate and successful business venture. More importantly, her professional relationship with Min-ho had gradually shifted into something that felt increasingly personal. Their meetings had become longer, their conversations ranging far beyond business topics. He'd started asking for her input on company policies related to accessibility, and she'd found herself looking forward to their discussions with an anticipation that had nothing to do with professional advancement. The new employee handbook looks good, Hana said, reviewing the document on her tablet during their weekly meeting. But I think you should add a section about inclusive language. What do you mean? People don't suffer from disabilities or are confined to wheelchairs. Language shapes perception, and perception affects how people are treated. Min-ho made notes on his copy of the document. What would you suggest instead? Person with a disability, wheelchair user. Focus on the person first, the disability second. That makes sense. Min-ho looked up from his notes. I never thought about how word choice could be so important. Most people don't. That's not necessarily their fault. They just haven't had reason to consider it. But you have. Every day. Hana set down her tablet. You learn to notice things when you're different. How people look at you. How they talk about you. Whether they include you in their mental picture of normal life. Is that what you want? To be seen as normal? The question surprised her. I want to be seen as complete. As someone whose value isn't diminished by the things I can't do. And what can't you do? Hana tilted her head, studying his expression. Are you asking professionally or personally? Both. Professionally, there's very little I can't do. I have a good computer setup, reliable internet, and all the software I need. Physically, I can't walk, obviously. I can't reach high shelves easily. I need accessible bathrooms and ramps instead of stairs. That's it? That's it. What about personally? Hana felt her cheeks warm. What do you mean? I mean, what about relationships? Dating? The things that make life meaningful beyond work? The personal nature of the question made Hana's heart race. That's complicated. How so? Because most people see the wheelchair first and the woman second. Because dating requires vulnerability, and I've learned to be careful about who I trust with. Min-ho was quiet. What if someone saw the woman first? Chapter 10. Crossing Lines. The question hung in the air between them, loaded with implications that made Hana's breath catch. She studied Min-ho's face, looking for signs that she was misinterpreting his meaning, but his expression was serious. Min-ho, I know this complicates our professional relationship, he said quietly, and I know I'm probably overstepping boundaries. But I can't pretend anymore that my interest in you is purely business. Hana felt her carefully constructed walls beginning to crumble. You don't know what you're saying. I know exactly what I'm saying. I'm saying that I think about you when you're not here. I'm saying that our meetings have become the best part of my week. I'm saying that when I look at you, I see someone intelligent, talented, and beautiful, and the wheelchair is just a piece of equipment you happen to use. It's not that simple. Why not? Because people like you don't end up with people like me. Because I come with complications you can't imagine. Because I've learned not to trust fairy tale scenario. Min-ho leaned forward in his chair. What if I told you that people like me, wealthy, successful, supposedly having everything, are often the loneliest people in the world? What if I told you that every relationship I've had has been with someone who was more interested in my bank account than my personality? That's different, is it? We're both dealing with people who can't see past the surface. The difference is that your challenges have made you stronger, while mine have made me more isolated. Hana felt tears threatening at the corners of her eyes. Min-ho, you don't understand what you'd be signing up for. Then explain it to me. I need help with things sometimes. I can't always go to the places you're probably used to going. People will stare at us, whisper about us, wonder what someone like you is doing with someone like me. Let them wonder. Min-ho's voice was firm. Hana, I've spent my entire life caring what people think, living up to expectations, being the perfect CEO, the perfect son, the perfect public figure. I'm tired of perfect. I want real. And you think I'm real? I think you're the most real person I've ever met. Hana closed her eyes, feeling the weight of the decision before her. She could maintain professional boundaries, keep her heart safe, continue the careful, controlled life she'd built. Or she could take a risk on something that felt too good to be true. If we do this, she said finally, if we try this, you have to promise me something. Anything. Promise me that when it gets difficult, and it will get difficult, you won't disappear. Promise me that you won't decide I'm too much trouble and walk away. Min-ho stood up and moved to kneel beside her wheelchair, taking her hand. I promise you that whatever challenges we face, we'll face them together. I promise you that I'm not going. Chapter 11. First Steps. Their first official date was dinner at a small, intimate restaurant that Min-ho had carefully researched for accessibility. He'd called ahead to ensure there would be no steps, that the table spacing would accommodate Hana's wheelchair, that the bathroom facilities were appropriate. The attention to detail touched Hana more than any grand gesture could have. You didn't have to go to so much trouble, she said as they were seated at a corner table with a view of the city lights. It wasn't trouble. It was consideration. Min-ho smiled as he settled across from her. Besides, I wanted our first date to be perfect. Perfect is overrated. I prefer thoughtful. Then I hope I achieved thoughtful. Hana looked around the restaurant. Warm lighting, soft music, other couples engaged in intimate conversation. For the first time in years, she felt like she belonged in a romantic setting, rather than being an awkward addition to it. Tell me something about yourself that's not in your corporate biography, she said, as they waited for their appetizers. I wanted to be a teacher when I was young, Min-ho admitted. Like your mother, I thought it would be meaningful to help shape young minds. What changed? Family expectations. The business needed an heir, and I was the only option. Min-ho's expression grew thoughtful. I sometimes wonder what my life would have looked like if I'd had the courage to choose my own path. It's not too late, isn't it? I'm 32, running a multi-billion-won company with thousands of employees depending on. You could teach business classes, mentor young entrepreneurs, find ways to educate within your current role. Hana leaned forward slightly. Just because you didn't take the traditional path doesn't mean you can't find ways to honor that original dream. Min-ho studied her face, struck by her ability to see possibilities where he saw only limitations. You're remarkable. Do you know that? I'm practical. There's a difference. No, you're remarkable. You've taken circumstances that would have broken most people and used them to develop wisdom and strength. Hana felt heat rise in her cheeks. I'm not some inspirational poster, Min. I'm just a person who's learned to adapt. That's exactly what makes you remarkable. Their conversation continued through dinner, ranging from childhood memories to future dreams, from professional aspirations to personal fears. Hana found herself sharing things she'd never told anyone, while Min-ho revealed vulnerabilities that his public persona never showed. As the evening wound down, Min-ho walked beside Hana's wheelchair toward the restaurant's entrance, his hand resting gently on her shoulder. I had a wonderful time tonight, Hana said, as they waited for the car he'd arranged. So did I. Would you like to do this again? Hana smiled up at him. I thought you'd never ask. Chapter 12. Building Something Real. 6 months later, Hana stood, with the help of parallel bars and Min-ho's steady presence beside her, in the physical therapy room of Seoul's most advanced rehabilitation center. The facility was a gift from Min-ho, Not to her personally, but to the city, funded through his company's charitable foundation. You don't have to do this, Min-ho said quietly as Hana gripped the bars and prepared to take a step with her new leg braces. I know I don't have to, Hana replied, her voice steady despite the tremor in her legs. I want to, not because I think walking will make me more complete, but because I want to explore every possibility. The distinction was important to both of them. Hana's decision to pursue experimental treatment wasn't about fixing herself or becoming more acceptable to society. It was about personal choice, about refusing to let anyone else, including well-meaning doctors, define the limits of what she could achieve. Min-ho had been her strongest supporter throughout the process, attending every appointment, researching every option, but never pressuring her to pursue treatments she wasn't interested in. He'd learned to love her exactly as she was, wheelchair and all, which gave her the freedom to explore change without feeling like it was required. One step, the physical therapist, just one. Hana shifted her weight, feeling the unfamiliar sensation of her legs supporting her body. The step was small, shaky, and required enormous effort, but it was hers. Beautiful, Min-ho whispered, and Hana knew he wasn't just talking about the step. That evening, they sat on the terrace of Min-ho's penthouse apartment, Hana in her wheelchair beside his chair, both looking out over the Seoul skyline. The Accessible Solutions division had grown into one of Nexus's most successful ventures, and Hana had become its creative director, leading a team of talented individuals who brought diverse perspectives to their work. Do you ever regret it? Hana asked, her hand finding his. Regret what? Choosing someone complicated, someone who comes with challenges. Min-ho turned to face her fully. Hana, you're the least complicated person I know. You're honest about what you need, clear about what you want, and brave enough to go after it. The only challenge you've brought to my life is the challenge to be a better person. And the staring, the whispers? The people who think you're either a saint or an idiot for being with, let them think whatever they want. Min-ho lifted their joined hands to his lips, pressing a gentle kiss to her knuckles. I know the truth. Which is? That I'm the luckiest man in Seoul, because I get to love someone who sees the world clearly, who doesn't let circumstances define her worth, and who makes me want to be worthy of her love every single day. Hana felt tears prick at her eyes, not tears of sadness, but of overwhelming gratitude for the unexpected path that had led her to this moment. I love you too, she said simply. As they sat together watching the city lights twinkle below, Hana reflected on the journey that had brought them here. It had started with counting pennies for a cake, a simple act of remembering her mother's love, but it had led to something she'd never dared to hope for, a love that saw her completely, accepted her fully, and challenged her to become the best version of herself. Sometimes, she thought, the most beautiful love stories began with the smallest acts of kindness between strangers who were brave enough to see past the surface to the heart under. This touching story reminds us that true love isn't about finding someone perfect, but about finding someone who sees your worth regardless of your circumstances. Min-ho's initial act of kindness grew into something deeper, because he took the time to see Hana as a complete person, rather than just someone to be pitied or helped. Hana's journey shows us that strength isn't about overcoming every obstacle, but about refusing to let those obstacles define your value. Their relationship proves that the most meaningful connections often form when two people are brave enough to be vulnerable with each other, sharing not just their successes, but their struggles and fears. What did you think of Min-ho's approach to helping Hana while respecting her dignity? Do you believe their love can overcome the societal challenges they'll face? Share your thoughts in the comments and don't forget to subscribe for more heartwarming K-drama style stories about love, acceptance, and the courage to see beyond the surface to find the extraordinary in the ordinary.